Hi guys, I'm Celeste. So, I want to talk to you guys. Yep, I want to talk to you guys. I hate having long hair because you know how like hair will just like come out a little bit and then it's like it like sticks to you and you're like, it's just a part of being a person. So, I want chapstick. I have to get new chapstick because mine is gone. It's starved. It's literally eating itself. I have to like scrape it out with my fingernail and then just like put it on my lips. Like, it's crazy. It would be embarrassing if I had any self-preservation, but I don't. Which is a lot easier to like exist as, you know? I'm not like, oh, I'm better than this hypothetical version of myself. Like, nope. That doesn't work. I mean, it works, but like, it doesn't really work for me because I just feel like my definition of success is like not even achieved yet if I do that. And then I'm like, oh, so that's the part of me that's getting in the way, you know? But it's not the part of me that gets in the way. Yeah. Anyway. I wanted to talk to you guys about like singing and that journey. That's what I wanted to. But instead I'm just scraping this chapstick and it doesn't have any left. So, you know, like I really need to get a new one. Because I don't know what I would do without chapstick. I would be so sad. So, yeah. Essentially, when I first started singing, I mean, I think there's a couple of thoughts that like go through a person's head. There were definitely like a few thoughts that went through my head. The first one, when I actually started like making my own songs and stuff, at that point I was like, well, there were like a lot of things that I was working through. At first, it's this weird thing where it's like, what if I don't know how to like follow the recipe that like already exists on the planet, but like what recipe, you know what I mean? But it's like this idea that other people can hold over your head. There's some imaginary recipe that is attainable for them, but you just haven't done it yet. You're just doing it wrong. You just haven't done it yet. And yeah, so I think that was like the first thing, right? Like the first thing that I could have either let get to me or I could just keep going and not care. So I think the idea of like, okay, like had I already been, I find it interesting, right? Like some people are like famous before they decide they want to do music, so they already have people around them who can like enforce these rules that are not actually you or real necessarily, but you'll never know. It's like, are you ever gonna know for sure if you followed the rules, if you randomly got feedback telling you did, and then you randomly got feedback telling you didn't? Like, I guess you like learn this imaginary set of rules, but people could easily like abuse that if you don't know essentially what you're doing, because they can be like, oh, like, no, actually I know the rules better than you. It's like, it's almost like if you can see colors the same way everybody else can, but the entire world hasn't validated the idea that you also see colors. You understand what I'm saying? So anybody, you could show them your version of blue and they're like, no, that's actually not blue. Like, you're really close, but you should have tried harder. And then you show them another color that's actually blue for both of you, and it's the same color for both of you, but they're like, no, like, again, that's not really blue, but like, you're kind of missing the point. Like, I think you actually don't understand. I think you actually don't understand how to find blue. And then you show them green and they're like, no, again, like, you don't understand how to find blue. And then, like, you know what I mean? You try red, they're like, no, you still don't understand how to find blue. At this point, you either give up or you start, like, hyper fixating on, like, constantly trying to show them a different color to finally have somebody tell you, yeah, that is blue. But it's like, why were you guessing which one blue was? Like, it becomes, I'll tell you what it becomes. You either trusted yourself the first time that you showed them blue because that was blue for both of you, or you decide yourself that you're strong enough to settle on red and call it blue for the rest of your life. Or until you decide to change it. Because that other person was gonna lie to you either way. And control the situation either way. The other person was gonna control the situation either way. Yeah, you might embarrass yourself walking around the entire world for the rest of your life calling red blue. But you decide if that matters. Because the other people were gonna lie to you even if it actually was blue. They were still gonna tell you you were embarrassing and it was red even though it was blue. So you might as well call red blue. Because it doesn't matter. But that's not easy to overcome when it's supposed to be this imaginary recipe that other people know and you don't know. And people can find ways to validate, oh, it's so true that you don't know. Like, based on this and this and that. And there's, like, evidence, and there's scientific evidence that you're, like, wrong about your own opinion of what you like, though. So. I would say that's number one, the first thing that comes up, right? The first thing that comes up. The second thing that comes up is even when you decide to overcome that. I mean, I guess, like, I had, like, the initial insecurity of, like, do I sound good? And I think that's something that's harder to get rid of. Like, it takes more time. I wouldn't say I'm fully, like, done with feeling that way here and there, but, like, it's different. It doesn't operate the same way as in the start. Like, at the start, I was like, okay, so, like, I don't want to find out if I sound terrible to somebody else, or what if it's stupid if I think that I sound good. But then again, it goes back to that imaginary recipe that other people are always going to tell you you're wrong about, no matter what, right? But it's like, at the start, you don't know why people are telling you you're wrong. You think it's because you're actually wrong for so long. You think that it's because you're actually wrong. Like, that's, like, one of the hardest things to overcome is, why are they telling me that I'm wrong and that you can scientifically prove that I am wrong if I'm not actually wrong? Like, why? Like, they wouldn't be, right? It's like the idea that there's, like, a scientist out there who understands science more than you, because why wouldn't there be? You're not a scientist, right? Or you don't claim to be at the moment. So you're like, okay, fingers crossed there's a scientist who understands science better than me, or we're all, like, dead, right? Like, like, hopefully, like, there is one out there, you know? Like you kind of just assume there probably is, like, there probably is. You assume that. So, but it's the same thing with, like, singing. You're like, okay, like, there probably is, but, like, is the person who's giving me feedback that scientist? It doesn't mean there's not, but the person giving you that feedback, what makes them that scientist? You know? So you have to overcome the idea that it's everybody who's better than you at it, but you also have to overcome the part of you that thinks that you're so good at what you're doing at the start that you don't have to change it, because have to isn't real, but it's like you want to change it, you just don't know that you want to yet because you want to grow and evolve and become better than yourself. But it's not through other people's feedback that you're going to do that. It is through finding out how to never accept another person's feedback and then changing the recipe you're creating for yourself. Like, the recipe you create for yourself, you also have to change for yourself to make it better and better and better. So, there's infinite to overcome, basically, if you're, you know, at the place I was, so. Next, I think the words that you're saying become, like, something you can fixate on too and be like, okay, like for me, like I started writing poetry, so I self-published 2 poetry books, so that helped with me validating for myself, okay, like I am good at writing. I know when I started writing poetry, I really wanted to get into like songwriting, but I just thought I wouldn't be good enough, so I wrote poems instead and kind of went that way, and then I didn't feel like I got what I wanted out of writing poems or leaving them as poems. I wanted to like edit them and make them into songs and stuff. So that was what I actually wanted, but because I didn't believe in myself, I ended up self-publishing 2 poetry books, which is kind of ironic, but it's like I didn't believe in myself so much that I decided to do that instead. And then it looks like an accomplishment, but it is, but it's like, and yeah, it is, but like I wanted them to be songs anyway, so it's more of an achievement that I decided to just make them into songs later on. But that validated for me, okay, like I am good at writing, I am good enough. But it wasn't based on somebody else, because like only 3 people bought the books anyway. It wasn't based on that. But I said to myself, like, I am good enough that I decided on my own a long time ago to publish something I was creating. So like now I feel like I'm good enough to like publish those as songs and then write other songs. Like the writing part, the actual words, I was like, okay, like I am good enough at that. Like I'll figure out what I want to do with editing as I go. But so I feel like the process changed here and there, but like, yeah. So I didn't feel like a baby at coming up with concepts for stories or songs or creative endeavors and ideas. Like I felt evolved in that category, but in editing, I had always been doing my own thing and still am, but like I hadn't figured out what that looks like with songs and what I'm okay with embracing as the natural version of myself that just comes to me, and what I actually want to change about that. Is there anything I want to change about that? Am I fine with if I do come across opinions of other people? Am I fine with that? Like there's kind of like a gray area of like, okay, what actually happens if other people just hate this? Like at that phase, it's like, okay, like maybe it's the end of the world if they hate it. So it's almost like for me, because I didn't get I wasn't famous at any point, so because I didn't get feedback on what I was creating, it's kind of like if you're in a room alone with yourself and you just start talking. Only you are there to decide if you're getting imaginary positive feedback or imaginary negative feedback on what you're saying based on the voices in your head or whatever you can make up or whatever you can imagine that maybe you've been exposed to at some point. Only there is like where it can come from, that you decide if you've got positive feedback or negative feedback, because that's not really that real at that point. It's not like you have, if you're famous, maybe you have like a news article saying you're terrible or amazing. So then you kind of have something to go by, I guess. I would imagine. So having to decide if I was getting positive or negative feedback from the imaginary ghost in the room, I decided I was just getting a lot of positive feedback from the imaginary ghost in the room. So I decided that the imaginary ghost in the room just thought I was like so amazing. So yeah, I just kept going. But it doesn't mean that I liked everything I was putting out. There were times when I hated some of it, like some of the details, like, you know, but I was like, this is the best that I can do, so I'm not going to throw it away. I'm going to just put it out there and just like hope for the best. And then nothing happens. And it's like, but I hoped for the best and nothing happened. But then it's like, okay, like you can take nothing happening as positive feedback or negative feedback. And I decided nothing happening is actually like the most positive feedback I could have gotten. There's like a mosquito in the room. But you know what I mean. So I decided, okay, nothing happening is actually positive feedback. It actually means that I'm way more amazing than I ever realized. I'm just gonna like put out an album, then I'm gonna put out another album. Again, 0 people are like, maybe like 1 or 2 good comments, you know? But like most comments are like non-existent or an emoji or something, or but like there's really barely comments. So, or a couple of people will just compare me to like a super famous artist that I didn't really want to be like, but they're like, oh, you should try harder to be like them and then maybe we'll like you. And it's like, but I didn't want to be like them anyway. I didn't want to. So, like, you know, writing and how does my voice sound, like, the test of can you take no answer as positive feedback, and then once you overcome that, you still don't get feedback. You just decided that, like, no answer was positive feedback. You don't suddenly, like, get feedback just because you were capable of taking no answer as positive feedback. You just have to be able to do that. And you have to take not just no answer, but, like, negative comments as positive feedback. You have to be able to do that. Then I guess, like, the next roadblock with the first song I ever put out, okay, there's no background sound. Like, it's just me singing. Like, it's just words that I wrote. Some people will have, like, they'll try using, like, a track in the background, like, music and stuff, right? Like, I guess to make it more listenable in their eyes, because they don't know why somebody would be listening to them if it weren't there. Which I think actually takes away at the start. Because I think that, well, because I have, like, raw vocals in all my tracks, so I truly am doing my best, but I'm like, if I'm gonna put my best foot forward, I have to show you the level that I'm actually at, not edit it and filter it and show you something fake that anybody could do. These days, anybody can use autotune. Anybody can use autotune. Not that I know how, but that's not the point. Even if I knew how, I would feel like, why am I doing this at the moment? Not that I don't want to in the future, but at the moment, I would be like, okay, like, why do I have to filter it at the moment? Like, I'm so new to this, I would much rather just show you, like, the level that I'm actually at, even if the level that I'm actually at is terrible. There's a couple of reasons I do this, aside from having no idea how to actually use autotune anyway, but it's kind of like, if I can try to get myself to the point where I would need it the least amount possible before I start using it, I'm just going to be way more comfortable with myself anyways. I think I theorize that some singers are great at singing without autotune, and some singers are terrified that you're going to hear the not filtered version. And I would rather, at least if I'm going to always be terrible, I would rather be comfortable with myself being terrible the most amount possible. Like, even if I'm going to be terrible, I'm just going to be comfortable being terrible. And what does it do? I'm going to move you close, sorry. Okay. So, yeah, like, I guess what I mean, like, if I need background music in the future, or if I feel like I want it, then I would be fine with that. Like, I'm fine with changing my mind, you know, and it's cool that there's other people that have their own things going on, but that's not me. So, but there is some strategy behind it, but also just, like, I can see where I'm actually at, you can see where I'm actually at, like, it makes, not that people have to do this, but, like, because I'm not trying to set that up either, like, even if it did work out for me, I'm not trying to be like, everybody has to do that. That would be kind of unfair. But what I'm trying to say is it does build confidence a lot faster, because it's like, okay, so not only was I already going to be, like, freaked out that this is terrible anyway, and it probably is terrible, but I'm going to put it out anyway, but also there's no background music that'll keep them listening longer, even if they hate me, like, whatever, you know, whatever people do to try to, you know, which maybe that's their strategy, but, like, a combination of it not being what I feel like I have access to, because, like, not that I would mind having access to that, because then I could, like, experiment with that and get better at that, but, like, honestly, I'm just not, I'm fine having the bare minimum to, like, use at this point, because then I have to accept myself with what I have and keep putting out work at the current level that I'm at with what I have and what I have access to. A lot of people can love themselves because they have resources, and they don't know that that's where it comes from. They think they have resources because they love themselves and they must have manifested it. But what you have makes it easier to love the version of yourself that other people see, because it fits in with like what you think you're supposed to be, and the ego, and like protecting the shell of who you are perceived as. The path that I'm taking undermines all of the like good sides of having the ego the way that it is anyway. Like the entire thing does have to become dissolved. And then it's only just my soul at that point that I'm like, maybe you want this, maybe you don't. Not that it isn't mine, but I'm like, maybe there's something you like about this, maybe there's not. There's probably not, but it's here. Like, yeah. So, I would say it does take strength. A lot of people are never gonna put out a song in their life, and that's fine, because it takes strength. A lot of people are never gonna use their own voice with lyrics that they personally wrote, even with autotune, even with a backing track. A lot of people are never going to not use autotune. A lot of people are never even going to do like a live performance. They're just going to make you think they did. A lot of people, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people. Because a person could like literally hate themselves forever if they were not ready to be like, okay, so everything is terrible about this, but I'm gonna keep going. And maybe I don't mind that everything is terrible about this. A lot of people are not gonna do that. A lot of people probably will not put out any song in their lifetime, an album in their lifetime. A lot of people probably won't finish an album that they start in their lifetime and publish it, and that's fine for them, but that's not my journey. A lot of people will probably never, if they're not famous after they put out a first album, they're gonna give up and they're gonna be like, oh, nobody likes me, like, why would I keep going? Obviously it's not meant for me, like, why would I keep going? A lot of people kind of have that mindset, and they're like, okay, so like, why would I keep going if nobody likes me? Like, clearly I can take a hint, like, I can like get it, you know. People try to set it up like that in their own minds and for themselves, but like, honestly, you either take no views as positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement, but you choose what you're going to take it as, and then you decide if you're going to keep going. So if you are crazy enough to take 0 views as extremely positive reinforcement and keep going, then it's like the same thing as if the crowd was cheering. Because you're just crazy enough to convince yourself that it's still positive reinforcement if there's 0 views. Because the whole thing is what you interpret anyway. A lot of artists, right, even if they're famous, the crowd could be cheering, but they hear the one complaint, and then they can never get the one complaint out of their head. A lot of people are like that. Which is fine for them, but maybe it's just not the path for them. Or maybe they want to do it a different way. A more filtered way, which is fine for them, because a lot of people are never even going to do this in their lifetime. But I wanted to kind of say, like, for me, I know how strong I am, and I know what would really, like, push the bill for, like, how strong I am, right? To what would actually make me stronger while doing what I think is extremely embarrassing, but shows you the actual real current level that I'm at. That would obviously be, yeah, like, to me, what I think is extremely embarrassing, but like, so what? You imagine what your audience is, and what your audience takes positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement, like, and gives to you, right? You know what I'm saying? Everybody and their dog and their uncle and their grandma wants to give you negative reinforcement. That's the other thing that comes into, if we're going back to that imaginary equation, people don't really want to give you that much positive reinforcement if they actually think you have a lot of potential. A lot of the time, there's somebody around who wants to tell you, well, this that you're doing is terrible, that you're doing sounds awful, the words you used are awful and terrible, and the way you look is this and this and that. People love doing that. People love doing that. That hasn't really happened to me that much because I intentionally refuse to put myself in the weird environments that make people hate themselves. Like, I'm like, okay, like, I'm just gonna avoid that, swerve around that, do what I want to do, you know? Like, if I can, like, remove that, then I will. But it can't be avoided forever. That I know. But it's one of those things where, like, you kind of get stronger. To me, you get stronger the more work you put out, because you start to prove yourself to yourself. And to create any form of music, especially to use your raw singing voice, lyrics that you personally wrote yourself, it's a competition to embarrass yourself the most amount possible, because that's the energy that you're overcoming if you are essentially given the opportunity by people or by the universe, however you want to see it, to like have success in this path. It's like you're never quite stepping into the door of the room full of people who are going to call you embarrassing and terrible and the worst person on the planet. You are always that close and trying forever harder to step into the room of people who hate you and want to call you embarrassing and annoying and a narcissist and, you know, someone who doesn't matter, right? At all, right? So the entire point is, yes, you're competing to embarrass yourself, but you're also competing to make yourself stronger and find out what parts of me are actually weak and what parts of me do I want to improve, and hopefully you start to find out, like, what do I actually love and what do I, not that you can't find out other ways, but there's so many tests going in that direction from people. Like, you have to find out how you can get stronger at, like, not worrying about, you know, all of that. You know? So, you don't know. Maybe you do. So yeah, it's not about, like, okay, I'm gonna do this and then I'm never gonna be embarrassing ever again and no one's gonna hate me, and I'm gonna do this because no one's gonna hate me. Like, that doesn't make sense, because you went the direction where everyone was gonna hate you. Like, you hopefully had something you were gonna use it for. Like, you hopefully had a plan for what you were gonna use it for, not the reason you didn't want it. That's not me. That's not me. I could have done a million things. I put my raw singing voice on hundreds of songs, called them albums. That's asking for everyone to hate you. That's asking for everyone to call you annoying. That's asking for everyone to, like, want you dead. You know? But, like, people you don't know, people you know, like, it's asking for a lot. It's asking for a lot of maybe some love mixed in with a lot of hate. That's what you're asking for, which is fine for some people because they're going to use it for something. Because they're probably witches and they're probably into magic if they're going to use it for something positive. It's just kind of how it is. If you have a very strong soul and you know you're going to use it to make yourself stronger, to know that, yeah, a lot of people are going to know about you, but a lot of people are going to hate you, and, like, what does that do? So many people are going to find you annoying. If you thought you were annoying your whole life, maybe you might as well do it, because you were already going to think other people thought you were annoying. Like, cool. You know? So, the first song I ever put out, I didn't even know, like, if it was fine to have no backing track. I didn't know if I was, like, allowed to. but like I was alone with myself, but I didn't know if I was like allowed to. I was like, am I allowed to call it like the title? Like, am I allowed to like give it a title like on my own? Am I allowed to decide what the cover art is? Am I allowed to download a photo from Pinterest? Is someone gonna like sue me someday or something? Which I'm not important enough for that anyway, so like, but you can have like a false sense of importance because it's so important for your soul to keep going, and at the start that false sense of importance is kind of like what makes you keep going, because it makes you strong enough to be like, no, I can do this, I can put my best foot forward even though everybody hates me, even though everybody's gonna think I'm annoying and everything I'm doing is wrong. Like, you actually do kind of need that at some point because it buffers some of the like anxiety you're gonna have, I would say. But like the faster you kind of go about it, like I put out my first song and then I think like the next day, or it took me like 2 days or something to put out the next one, and then like within a couple of weeks I had like 8 or 10 songs, you know, or more than that. And then within a couple more weeks I had like a full album and then another album. Like, because I am going through it faster, I am putting out a lot of work, but I can, sorry, there's another hair on me from like having hair on my head, you know. I should really just like shave it off. I should really do that, but like I'm not going to, you know. But I could get 50,000 comments saying, which I'm not going to, I'm gonna get like 0. But if I had 50,000 comments saying shave your head, I'm not going to do it just because there's comments. You know what I'm saying? So like, it kind of depends on the type of person who's put into a certain situation, and like there's a reason why your soul wants something specific. But are you gonna answer the call, or are you going to ignore it? That's how it is. You decide if you're strong enough to get stronger. That's why I wanted to go this way, because it's the coolest thing ever, in my opinion, to be able to prove my strength. Because whoever was going to do that ever, whoever was going to boldly just say, it's probably going to work out for me, but even if it doesn't, I'm going to release like 10 albums or something. Who does that ever? Nobody. So, I mean, some people, but like really it's rare. And if you get 0 views to just make another album, like that's kind of rare. So, to be like, yeah, maybe success comes from nowhere, maybe it doesn't exist, but I'm gonna keep going, you know? Yeah. You decide. If the silence in the room is positive or negative reinforcement, you decide. So, I think it was so funny. I didn't know if I was like allowed to, and then like with the cover art I was like, well, am I allowed to use, like for one of them I was like, am I allowed to use like an old photo of myself as the cover art for my own first album? Am I allowed to? Am I allowed to? But who was gonna say no? Nobody. I was alone with myself. And if there had been an imaginary person, they probably would have talked me out of it or tried to, but I still would have said, no, I'm gonna do it anyways. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I've always gotten the feedback when I was younger, oh, my voice is too high-pitched, or I talk too much and I'm annoying or something. There's always someone who wants to say that. But it doesn't mean anything because you decide. If your intent is to annoy them, then you're doing amazing. And no one can tell you you're not. That's like how it is, you know? Anyway. Basically, you just keep inventing new ways to take it as positive reinforcement even when something negative happens. And then you get stronger. I love you guys. That's all I really got, but love you, bye.